Khare and I'm a psychological counselor at Symbiosis Center for Emotional Wellbeing. On behalf of SKEW, I welcome you all to today's YouTube live session on mind-body connection. The mind and the body are not two separate entities, although they are often treated that way. Our physical health and emotional health are intimately intertwined. To understand this mind-body connection better, we have with us today Dr. Cheryl John Senthinathan. Let me introduce her. Dr. Cheryl is an eminent psychiatrist practicing at Dr. L.H. Hiranandani Hospital, Powai, and Holy Spirit Hospital, Mumbai. She specializes in managing cases related to adult psychiatry, de-addiction, consultation liaison psychiatry, and stress management. She has trained at the esteemed Medical Institute of Mumbai, namely Lokmanya Tilak Municipal Medical Hospital, and has also done the Karhav's method of counseling from St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. She has done a certification course in dialectical behavior therapy under the esteemed pioneer Marsha Linehan. She is the convener of the NGO Patient Carer Subcommittee of the Indian Psychiatric Society. She is on the board of trustees of FIAMC, Biomedical Ethics, and a part of the executive committee of the Bombay Psychiatric Society. A passionate advocate of community mental health, she actively promotes mental health by conducting various programs about the same. So we are really lucky to have a speaker with us with such a rich experience to talk about this very important and relevant topic today. With this, Dr. Cheryl, I hand it over to you to share your insights, and thank you so much for joining us today.
At the outset, I'd like to thank you, Neha, for this very kind introduction. Also to the Symbiosis Wellness Center, Dr. Girija, Dr. Rahul, and the entire team to giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you here today on a very, very important topic, and especially being the World Mental Health Week. I think it's really great that we are able to interact. I'll just share screen. Just give me a minute. Yes, so we're here to talk about a very, very important topic, and that's a mind-body connect. So when we think about this mind-body connect, and we hear this very often by everybody, right? Master the mind. I mean, this is something that everybody keeps on telling us, I think, right from the time that you're a young child to even sometimes as adults, we are taught again and again and told again and again that how we should be able to master our mind. To be able to master something, we should be aware of where it is, isn't it? So let's kind of put our thinking caps on and think about where is this mind that everybody wants us to master. The concept of mind, I think it's high time that we shift the concept from mind to understand it as a brain. And I know that sometimes it seems a little controversial to say that the mind doesn't exist. I'm just trying to put it on a physical aspect, that all the attributes that we think belong to this mind of ours is actually the function of our brain. And since the brain is very much a physical part of your body, we know that your mood, your thinking, your emotions, which originate from your brain, actually are housed here. So your mind and your brain are synonymous with each other. How do I say that? I say that because structurally, the brain that we talk about, or we interrelated or interchange the word brain with mind for us to understand that our emotions and motivation, they originate from the limbic brain. How do I make decisions? This originates from the front part of your brain, which is known as the neocortex. Our instincts, our urges, our impulses originate from our reptilian brain, or the behind part of our brain. What does this mean? This means that when I have to have any executive functions, that means what can I learn from a situation? As students in your course, when you're trying to process your information given by your teacher, or when you're processing information that you learn, you use your prefrontal lobes. Your emotional state about whether I'm loved, the anger that I feel, the anguish and sadness that I feel originates from your limbic system, and your brain stem, which is the one to give you the signal of whether you're safe or not. Do I run away from this situation? Do I fight this situation? That comes from the brain stem. So when we talk about this mind-body connection, it's very important for us to understand that our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, attitudes, are these the things that we attribute to our mind? So yes, our thoughts, our feelings, these can positively or negatively affect our biological function, which means our mind or brain can affect how healthy our bodies are. Also, what we do with our physical body, that means what do I eat, how much I exercise, even my posture, can impact my mental state positively or negatively. So this results in a very complex interrelationship between our mind and body. It's almost like a symphony, with the brain being the conductor of this beautiful symphony. So the brain, the peripheral nervous system, the endocrine, the immune system, and all the organs of the body, and all the emotional responses we have, they share a common chemical language, and they're constantly communicating with each other. And all music lovers will understand that for a symphony to work beautifully, for us to enjoy music, the conductor has to be good. So our mind and our brain has to be good. What are these chemical messengers? I hope you remember Munna by MBBS, where everybody talked about chemical locha in the brain. So these chemical locha, or these chemicals in the brain known as neurotransmitters, not only are present in our brain, but affect other organs too. Let's spend the next few seconds understanding what these neurotransmitters do. So you have the adrenaline. This is the response, or this is a chemical that arises when you are in a stressful situation. It is the one responsible for your fight or flight response. What does it do? It increases your heart rate and blood flow. It sometimes gives you a physical boost and a heightened awareness. The reason why you need the adrenaline and the changes that happen in your body when the adrenaline rush happens is for you to run away from a stressful situation or to fight a stressful situation. On the other hand, you have the calming neurotransmitter known as GABA. Now, these calming fires nerves in the central nervous system. So when you have your GABA at a very high level, it improves your focus. It lowers your anxiety. It also contributes to motor control and vision. We move on to noradrenaline, which is a chemical required, or the neurotransmitter required for concentration. So when you're paying attention, when you're studying, so all that attention, responding to actions, the response of, or the responsibility of the noradrenaline. It also contracts your blood vessels and improves the blood flow in your body. Learning is associated with acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is involved in thought, learning, and memory. It also activates muscle action in the body. It's associated with attention and awakening. And we know that a lot of research has been done on acetylcholine and memory because of the impact of low acetylcholine in patients who have memory disturbances like dementia. The dopamine, or your pleasure hormone. So the reason that you feel pleasure, the reward pathway of your brain, the reason that you feel a high when you are using a substance, the chemical required to motivate you to actually sit through this lecture, all this is because of dopamine. You have glutamate, which is also responsible for memory. It regulates and helps in your nerves to connect to each other. Your mood is regulated by serotonin. Now, serotonin also helps your sleep and digestive system regulation. Serotonin is affected by exercise, light exposure. You have endorphins. Most of the time when we talk about feeling happy after an exercise, it's because of the endorphins. The excitement after exercise, sex, all is because of the endorphins, which also helps in reducing pain. And if you look at it, these neurotransmitters which originate in your brain cells are present and act in different parts of your body. So what happens to this mind-body connection when you are stressed? I like to tell you some stories about certain people who have visited and we have kind of tried to correlate about this mind-body connection. So Sia is a second-year law student. She was complaining of constantly getting headaches. Most days of the week, she had this heaviness in her head. Some days she felt कि मेरा सर फटने वाला, it's going to explode. She visited many doctors with no relief. So what do you think is happening here? Isn't it a common symptom, pain, headache, which many of us experience? What Sia was going through was stress. And we have noted that nearly 50% of patients with depression present with pain symptoms. And what are these pain symptoms? They're quite often unexplained. Usually it's headache. Sometimes it can be abdominal pain. Sometimes it can be pains in different parts of your body. So your mood or your depression can actually present as pain symptoms. Rohan is a 22-year-old IT professional. Now, he had to work for a few months with the USA team, and this caused him to change and alter his sleeping pattern because it was only for a few months. He was working with a US team, which was his dream job, actually. It was a dream project that he was working for. And he was quite happy to change his sleeping pattern. He said, I can do this. This is only for, a few months, and then I'll go back to my old routine. He thought that things will get better once he's back to his schedule. But once the project got over and the schedule went back to his India timings, he just could not sleep. He thought, okay, it'll settle down. But then he started getting difficulties at concentrating at work. And there were constant complaints from his seniors about the mistakes he was making. So he went from this high-performing individual who was handpicked to lead this project to a person who was actually picked on during his appraisal to say that he's not doing really well at work. What is happening here? Yes, so sleep and your body functions are very, very important. Sleep disturbances often precede the onset or recurrence of depression or other mental health issues. Sleep disturbances may also increase the risk for suicidal behavior. We move on to Karthik. Now, Karthik visited his family doctor with a sudden onset of chest pain. He had palpitations. Palpitations means when your heartbeat is very high. And this is a very common problem that we see now because most of us are wearing a smartwatch which monitors our heartbeat. And it's very easy to pick up when your heart rate is high. So he was complaining of this chest pain, palpitations. He was feeling breathless, choking sensation, tremors, tingling sensation all over the body. He felt that he was going to die of a heart attack. But this happened sometime during the COVID pandemic situation, and he was hearing about so many people who were passing away. He had heard about so many celebrities who had died suddenly of a heart attack. So though he was a young boy, he felt, no, something is wrong with me. I have to get myself evaluated. So he got all his tests done. He went to one cardiologist who did all the relevant tests, an ECG, 2D echo. He actually even got a CT angiography done. And everything was normal. What is happening here? So what he was experiencing is something that we call as a panic attack. Why is it that I am talking to you, Symbiosis students and faculty, about this mind-body connect? Why is it that we are sharing this story about Sia, Karthik, and Rohan when they have come to me with pain, sleep disturbances, or even something which resembles a heart attack? It's because of data which says that almost 30% students who report stress had negatively affected their academic performance. 85%, which is a huge number of students, have felt overwhelmed by everything they had to do at some point during the last year. Almost 16% students were diagnosed to have anxiety, and 13% were diagnosed to have depression over the last year. And this was the data submitted to the American College. And I'm sure that if I have to present Indian data, the numbers would be even more. Pre-pandemic, 1 in 7 people experienced mental health issues. Now the numbers have gone down to 1 in increase. The numbers have increased to a ratio of 1 in 4 to 1 in 5 people experiencing stress. What does stress do to your body? Let's look at the short-term symptoms of stress. It's almost like when you feel that you have to go up on stage and somebody suddenly inviting you to give a speech. Or the uneasiness that you feel before an exam that you are not prepared for. Or the little uneasiness I felt before I could start my presentation. When this becomes long-standing or it's persistent for a little longer period of time than when the trigger is present, that means when I am presenting today, if I'm unable to present because of the changes that I'm experiencing in my body, that means my body is undergoing changes of stress. That means I'm feeling worried, nervous, my brain is not able to switch off. My heart will beat harder, and that means faster and more blood flow to my blood vessels. My breathing becomes more difficult or more labored. I might feel some issues in my stomach. So if you remember, when we have an exam, we want to go and visit the washroom again and again. My skin becomes very sensitive and oily. Sometimes I'm perspiring. People also experience sexual problems or sexual dysfunctions when they are stressed. Your muscles start tightening up because, like I told you, when you're stressed, your brain thinks that you are in danger and wants to make you run away from that situation or fight that situation. So your muscles need to be ready to fight or run. What happens when you don't take care of your stressful situations or the triggers which cause you stress? These short-term symptoms turn into long-term problems. So you can have tension, headache, and migraine. You can have symptoms of depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder. You can actually experience serious heart problems. Here is where I'm coming back into the topic of your mind-body connect, where my brain, which is feeling stressed, is constantly sending signals to my heart, and I can experience genuine physical problems in my heart. The recent studies and recent newspaper articles about so many young people passing away because of a heart disease. It's probably because of the stress which was not handled well, leading to cardiac problems. When you have long-term problems of stress, you have trouble breathing. You can hyperventilate. That means breathing more harder than usual and have panic attacks. A lot of young people experience a flare-up of their acne and have hair loss when they are stressed. You are at an increased risk of diabetes. Also, people who have hypertension, diabetes. So you can relate to maybe your parents at home or your grandparents, those who have diabetes and hypertension. When they experience a stressful situation, the chances that the diabetes will become uncontrolled or the hypertension or the blood pressure will rise are more common. Women and men can experience fertility problems if the stress is ongoing and the body responds to the stress in a negative way. Now, we know that stress is bad for us. We know what happens to our body when we get stressed. So is everything very dark? No, we can learn how to manage this mind or brain body connection. So when we talk about our mind, our mind takes charge of our emotions, our attitudes, and our thoughts. If we are able to work on our emotions, attitude, and thoughts, we will be able to enhance and strengthen our mind-body connection. And doing these are very simple things, right? So it's almost like how you learned the tables when you were a young child. When I was a student, I remember just learning the tables by heart. So my mother would keep on telling me 2 3s are 6, 2 4s are, 8, and keep on repeating the same thing again and again. Because the more I practiced a concept, it became permanent in my brain. In the same way, the way we approach our emotions, the attitude we have to approaching our stress, and how I approach a situation, what are the thoughts in my head? Can I align that to make sure that my mind-body connection is holistically, we are having a holistically well and good approach towards our mind-body. So let's look at emotions. We go through a number of emotions during the day, don't we? Joy, anger, disgust, fear, sadness. And this spectrum of emotions, the first thing that we need to understand is these are normal emotions. All the time we can't be happy. Or all the time we can't be scared. We can't be sad all the time. We have to experience each and every emotion according to the environment or the trigger around us. So it's okay to be sad sometimes. It's okay to be angry at a situation. It's okay to be happy for some time. Anything that goes beyond the spectrum is something that we need to work on. But having these emotions are absolutely normal. And that's what we need to train our brains to say that it's okay to have this whole spectrum of emotions. The most difficult emotion that we struggle with is anger, isn't it? Because we're always told that you should not be angry or why you need to manage your anger better. The reason why we need to manage our anger better is because if you're not managing your anger, it can turn violent. What happens to your body when you're angry for a long period of time? Your source of anger can be anything. It can be disappointment at yourself, disappointment at your situation. It can be frustration. It can be judgment about a situation. It can be rejection. It can be fear. So if you look at the different triggers evoking a similar response of anger. So fear can also provoke a response of anger. Disappointment can also provoke a response of anger. It goes through the entire circuit in your brain. It releases all the stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. And then there are these changes that happen in your body. So sometimes your vision gets blurred. You feel that your mouth is drying up. There is a decreased blood flow to your digestive system. Your metabolism slows down. Higher chance of having a cardiac problem or a brain stroke. So you have increased heart rate, blood pressure, your blood glucose levels, your cholesterol levels rise. So when an emotion like anger is not channelized or handled in an appropriate way, it causes changes in your body. Then let us look at few strategies on how do I manage my anger. What are the common ways that we usually handle anger? And I'm sure that each one of us can resonate with these points. Sometimes when I'm angry, I will act out. So मैं बदला लूंगा, like a classical Hindi or Bollywood hero. Or I become very aggressive. I can be aggressive towards my parents. I can be aggressive towards my friends. Sometimes we choose something known as passive aggression. We refuse to acknowledge or even answer somebody when we are angry. Or we blame the situation. We complain about everything that's going wrong in our lives and how I am a victim here. Sometimes when we are very angry, we also tend to use weed, resort to smoking or alcohol. Anger sometimes makes us ignore situations. So we become like an ostrich with the head in the sand and saying कि मुझे कुछ नहीं देखना है. Or a horse with blinders on because I don't know how to manage my anger. Sometimes we also wait for others to help us when we are in this angry situation. Are these helpful in the long run? Any of these responses? No. The very reason why these are not helpful in the long run is because, like I told you in the previous slide, that these situations will cause changes in your body and not in a good and healthy way. So one way that you can manage your anger better is having an anger diary. So write down the things that made you angry, how you would want to respond. Sometimes if a particular person is provoking this anger emotion in you, you can write a letter to that person. Don't write an email, don't send a WhatsApp message, just write a letter, keep it away, and at the end of the day, tear it or burn it. Like how I think anybody who's watched the movie Jab We Met, you know how she was told to burn the pictures and burn the letters given by her ex-boyfriend. The way of the reason why an anger diary helps is because you're decluttering your brain. You're getting your emotion of anger out on pen and paper. When you start writing it, the emotion associated with the anger, your body changes. You become more calmer, your breathing settles down, your muscles are not going into the fight and flight mode. Why I said do not write it on WhatsApp is because it is very easy to click a button and send the message. And what we say or write when we are angry may not be something that we actually mean. So that what you want to say, the content of your information may be absolutely right. There could be a person who has really hurt you and you want to convey that message to that person. But when you do it with an emotion of anger, you're most of the time not sending the right message across. The person is only looking at the tone of your voice or the tone of your letter or the words that you're using in the letter. But when you're writing it down, you have time to process that, go through the things that you want to cut off, and then send a message to another person. That helps to do that when you're in control of this emotion of anger. We also need to understand and dig, oh, what is it that has actually caused me to be so angry? I'm angry at the traffic, but is it really the traffic or is it because there are other issues associated with it? I'm angry to attend this particular class. I don't like this professor at all. Why? Is it because how the professor is interacting with me, or does the professor provoke some past emotions in me? Am I scared of a particular subject and that makes me want to hate the subject more? So what is the exact cause of my anger? Let's dig a little deeper when we experience this emotion. Is it fear? Is it insecurity? Is it stress? Because many times it's like a tip of the iceberg. Your emotion of anger is hiding a lot of things which are, you're repressed and kept it deep inside. When you're exhausted, when you're scared, when you're lonely, many times when we are embarrassed, instead of actually putting across feeling shy and embarrassed, we use a defense mechanism of being angry. When we're extremely hurt, also we can project that as anger. So you would really need to recognize the source of your anger. What is the underlying cause of my anger? There are some short-term tips that you can use in a situation where you need to control your anger. Having cold water splash on your face or taking a cold water shower. Even using a towel with cold water on your face helps in calming your anger. And how does that happen? Again, here is where your mind-body connection comes into place. When you're angry, your sympathetic nervous system, the nervous system responsible for your fight and flight response, is on an overdrive. You want to calm that nervous system down. You don't want to be angry. So you need to activate the calming or the parasympathetic nervous system. A cold splash of water will stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, and that will help in controlling your emotion of anger. Intense exercise. So when you're extremely agitated about a situation, maybe you can do 60 jumping jacks, do 30 push-ups, go for a run. It will help in channelizing your anger in a more structured and appropriate manner. Breathing exercises. Simple breathing exercises known as spaced breathing, where you breathe in 1, 2, 3, you hold 1, 2, 3, and you breathe out longer. So you breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you breathe in, you hold, and you breathe out. It's the same mechanism that you would want to use when you're splashing your face with water. You're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which will help in calming you down. This is a skill known as the TIP skill. So T stands for temperature, I stands for intense exercise, and P stands for paced breathing. Now you have to understand, when do I use these methods to control my anger? You're angry at the traffic signal, you can't get off your car and start doing jumping jacks. You will not get water to splash on your face, but you can practice breathing. You're at home and you're getting angry about a situation, you can go for a run. It will also help you to get out of the stressful environment at home and also help you to calm yourself down. You're studying for an exam and you're getting very anxious and nervous. You can splash your face with water. You're sitting in an exam hall, you're feeling nervous and angry, you can practice breathing exercises. The more you practice these exercises, every time when I'm angry, if I use one of these things to calm myself down, my brain will learn that path. It's very simple. I love Dairy Milk Silk. Now, I'm so sorry that I said Dairy Milk Silk and here my mouth is watering. I'm having this talk with this beautiful audience and I'm having salivation. Can I change it? No, because my brain remembers Dairy Milk Silk and actually brings about salivation. The same thing happens when I'm angry, my body is tensing up, my hands are clenching. But if I change that story and say, when I'm angry, I'm going to breathe, the next time that I get angry, my brain is automatically going to tell me, breathe, and will help in calming it down. And this comes with practicing that skill again and again. Let's look at some of the long-term ways of how do I manage anger and stress. Most of the time, the way we react or respond, so am I reacting to a situation or am I responding to a situation, shows how I handle my anger better. So let's each one of us look at an event in our life which caused you to be angry. It could be something that happened today, it could be something which happened yesterday. Think and imagine of that event which made you angry. What was your emotional reaction to that event? And what was your response? So when you are able to identify, okay, this is a trigger, this is how I feel, and this is how I act. See, it's very simple. Life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. So can I change my response? Because my event cannot be changed. The emotional feeling, the signal that my mind will give me will not change because my mind is equipped to deal with that or is trained to give me that emotional response. But I can choose to change my response. I can learn to accept the situation for what it is. It's like when you're flying a kite and you know that the kite is going very high and you cannot pull it anymore. What would you do? You don't want your finger to be cut by the manja. So you will release the kite. In the same way, sometimes it's important to learn to accept the situation for what it is. Also, we have to learn to respond and not react. We have to give ourselves that buffering time before I answer back, before I retort back to a friend who's angering me. From emotions, let's move a little bit to how the attitudes in our lives shape our mind-body connection. What kind of person are you? Are you a glass half full or a half empty person? So somebody sent me a meme. It said that both of these are not true. Technically, the glass is always full. Yes, it's covered with half of air, right? So am I a person who looks at it like this? Or am I a person who looks as the glass is always full? My attitude towards stress will show the way or the path about how I handle my stressors in my life. If I have a negative attitude, if I am a glass half empty person, I will not be able to separate what is important from what is unimportant. I'll have a pessimistic style. I'll be easily angry and I have a very low frustration tolerance. I will have a negative attitude towards others. I may see life as meaningless. I will blame myself for events which are beyond my control. And I'll not be able to laugh at a situation. If I am a half glass full person, I'll be able to discriminate between important and unimportant. Basically, it means I'm an optimistic person. So I'm slow to anger. I have a tolerance to frustration. I have a positive attitude and I'm able to see life as meaningful. Many times when I talk about optimism as an attitude to have, people come back and tell me, you mean to see that I should not look at the danger? Should I always be happy? No. Optimism doesn't mean always being happy. Optimism is looking at a situation as a challenge rather than danger. Let me give you an example. Suppose you go for a blood test today and the doctor tells you after seeing your reports that you know what, or the doctor tells me, Dr. Shedil, you have very high cholesterol and because of your family history of heart problems, you have a higher chance of having a heart attack. Now, if I'm a person who has a pessimistic attitude towards life, I will say, गया मेरी तो जिंदगी खत्म हो गई, देखो मेरा कोलेस्ट्रॉल भी बढ़ गया, मेरे फैमिली में भी हार्ट अटैक का प्रॉब्लम है, मेरा तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. And I will learn to give up. But if I'm an optimistic person, what will I say? अच्छा, कोलेस्ट्रॉल बढ़ा हुआ है, yes, हार्ट अटैक के भी चांसेस है. What can I do to change it? Can I change my lifestyle? Can I take medications to reduce my cholesterol? Can I exercise better? So a same situation, I'm looking at as a challenge and working towards improving it rather than looking at it as a dangerous situation. So let us change our attitude to work towards a more positive and optimistic attitude towards life. Then let's move to our thoughts, which most of us struggle with, don't we? Because our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions form a vicious circle around each other. I don't know how many people have watched both these movies. So one is a movie, Joker, and the other is a movie known as Pursuit of Happiness. If you remember the story of the movies, both the main characters in the story faced very troubled times. So the Joker had substance use, his mother had a mental health disorder, he was wronged by society. And a similar situation with Will Smith in the movie where he lost his job, his wife left him. Now, how did he approach that situation? The Joker took a gun and started shooting everybody. Will Smith in the movie Pursuit of Happiness, I'm saying in the movie because he chose a different way how to handle his anger in the Oscar. So I'm not talking about Will Smith as a person, but I'm talking about Will Smith as a character in Pursuit of Happiness, where he chose to work hard and change his life story. And this was a study which was done in California. What determines my happiness? 50% is genetics, but so that we can't change. I'm born with the genes that I have. Circumstances only contribute to 10%. The main game changer is my actions and thoughts. So how I handle my thoughts will show how I handle or how I handle my emotions, how I can determine happiness in my life. What are the positive practices to have good thought process? Mindfulness. What happens when we wake up in the morning? We start with let the stress begin. I remember a time when I did not know about the practice of mindfulness. I would wake up, put the paste on my brush, go to the kitchen, put on the water for the tea, wake up the children. So at the same time, I'm doing so many things together without being mindful of even brushing my teeth. What ideally should happen? If I'm a person who's mindful, each task that I will do, I will try to incorporate all my senses. Sometimes it's difficult to be mindful throughout the day. Can we practice mindfulness when we wake up in the morning? Why I'm talking about brushing your teeth? Because everybody brushes their teeth when they wake up in the morning. That's the first thing that we do. So we need not take out extra time to practice mindfulness. When I'm brushing my teeth, can I, आपके टूथपेस्ट में नमक है कि नहीं? हमें पता ही नहीं कि हमें टूथपेस्ट में नमक है, because हम कभी टेस्ट ही नहीं करते. So can we be mindful when we are brushing about how the paste tastes? How does a froth feel? So we are incorporating all our senses into a simple act of brushing our teeth. That is an act of mindfulness. Another important and very useful mindfulness practice is a meditation known as loving kindness meditation. It's freely available. You can look it up. I just wanted to show you the mind-body connection with mindfulness. If you look at the brain of a person before the meditation practices and after, here you can see that so many networks in the brain are stimulated. And here everything is concentrated. That means a person's focus has improved, concentration has got better, and this is just a scan done 10 minutes before and after meditation. Imagine the benefits it will have when you practice it daily. Savoring, another practice which will help in incorporating mindfulness into your lives. You go to have, coffee at, here we go to, Cafe Coffee Day or Starbucks or Theobrom's. I'm sure you have beautiful joints in Pune where you go to have your coffee. Do you really enjoy that coffee? Are you really smelling the coffee? Do you enjoy the donut that you are eating? Are you so busy comparing this donut? Oh, last time jab maine piya tha, wo better tha. Maybe the German bakery had a better pastry than this. So we do not give in to that experience. So let's step into an experience, review and appreciate it more. Practicing gratitude. At the end of each day, can I list 2 things in the day that I've been grateful for? And this is an amazing practice that I have started in my home. Before we go to bed, each one of us will say 2 things that we are grateful for. And it's not about I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for the food that I got. No, some actual genuine things. It has to be different things every day. What happens to your brain when you practice this attitude of gratitude? Your circuits in your brain scientifically become more programmed to look at things with a positive meaning. Otherwise, they're constantly looking at things that are negative. And rightfully so, because I need to solve the problems in my life. I need to correct my mistakes. So my brain will tell me constantly, ye galat hai, ye galat hai, ye galat hai. But if I train my brain ki dekhe ki kya sahi chal raha hai, that will help to hone that circuit and make me a better person with a better control of my mind and body. Sometimes we'll say, mere din mein aaj kuch bhi acha nahi hua. That's also a learning. So we can also use a challenging situation and look at it from a gratitude attitude. Then what have I learned from it? So that is how we practice gratitude. Digital detox. When we're on our gadgets all the time, scrolling through Insta, watching reels, on Facebook, I think you're not a Facebook generation. Most of you are Insta generation. We're constantly comparing our lives with what has been put up by somebody else on social media. And that definitely will cause a dip in the good chemicals in my brain. Can I disconnect? Can I disconnect from my gadget for some time? Can me and my friends, when we step out to go to the pub or go for lunch, decide that we are not going to keep our phones on the table. We are going to put our phones on do not disturb mode, put it in our bags. When Okay, you can take your first customary picture for your Insta story, switch off your phone and put it inside. Can I say that I'm not going to use my gadget the first half an hour when I wake up in the morning? You can keep your gadget out of your bedroom. Then somebody will tell me, doctor, but if I keep the gadget outside my bedroom, alarm nahi sunai dega. Buy an alarm clock. What happens is when you wake up in the morning and the first thing is you open your gadget, your brain is primed to get into a stressful situation. Give yourself half an hour to settle down into the day. Appreciate the sunlight. Go brush your teeth, wash your face. After about 15-20 minutes, take your gadget. You can do a similar exercise before you go to bed at night. So learn to disconnect. And that's how the reconnection of your brain cells will happen. Many a times we get a lot of distressing thoughts. How do I handle my distressing thoughts? So when you get your thoughts, look at what's going on internally. Like I told you about when an event happens and you responded to it when you're angry. In a similar way, can I look at my thoughts? What are my thoughts? What's going on inside? When I feel something, whether it is love, whether it is sadness, whether it is anger, what are the emotion changes that are happening? What are the body changes that I experience? Is my heartbeat increasing? Is my palm becoming cold? Am I feeling a knot in my head? Are the muscles of my back becoming tighter? Now, can I change my approach? Can I change my approach and then see whether these physiological changes or body changes also change? How do I change my approach? Suppose I've had a bad day at work, I'm very angry, and I'm coming back home. Now, before I step inside my house, can I just notice that yes, I'm having a lot of anger, I'm having negative thoughts and feelings. So I'm naming my thought. I'm angry about the situation. Now, can I refocus? I'm angry about a situation which happened outside my home. I'm standing at my door, about to ring the doorbell. Can I refocus and say, can I keep that situation which was happened in the past away for some time? I'm noticing I'm going to get into my house and I'm going to change and focus to something which is more relevant here. I'm going to spend more positive time with my family. I will address my anger later. I will address the problem which happened to me at work later. I will address the problem that I had with my friend later, but I'm just refocusing and becoming mindful of this. So I just changed that negative thought to a positive emotion. So I reframe the story or I reframe the situation. Similarly, when we're talking about mind-body connection, I spoke a lot about the role of your mind, isn't it? We spoke about the neurotransmitters in your brain. I spoke about what happens to each part of your body when your brain neurotransmitters are not functioning well. I told you about emotions, attitudes, and thoughts. But what about the rest of my body? How does that impact my mind? So it's very simple, so much of data. When I exercise, that means when I use my body, there is increased vascularization in my neurons. That means there is increased blood flow to my brain cells. There is increased production of this brain-derived neurotrophic factor. There is increased brain volume. Can you imagine you can actually increase the volume of your brain when you exercise? There is increased connectivity between your brain cells. What happens when I sleep well? When I get a good night's sleep, whatever I have, transferring of memories from short-term storage to long-term storage happens. Why is this important? Because before an exam, a lot of times students will do all night. Hum all night padhenge. And then when you go for the exam, you feel completely blanked out. It's because whatever you have studied has not gone into long-term memory. It has to go into long-term memory for you to retrieve the information when you need it. But when you have a good night's sleep, it will impact and improve your memory a lot. Sleep impacts how you think. It keeps the rest of your body healthy. It will regulate your appetite. Sleep is like rebooting of your laptop. You know, when your phone has a new update, or your laptop has a new update, a software update which needs to be installed, you have to connect the laptop or the phone to the power source, isn't it? Because if it's not connected to the power source, the update doesn't happen. In the same way, if you're not sleeping at night, the update or regulation of your body and your brain does not happen. So it's extremely important to get your 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Another mind-body connection is something that we call as progressive muscle relaxation. It's a very, very effective way of making your mind-body connection more effective. So it's a very, very simple technique. You can do it lying down or sitting down. So you start from one part of your body, because it's called progressive muscle relaxation. So you start from your feet and you go up to your head. You focus on each part of your body. So you focus on your feet, you squeeze it for about 5 to 10 seconds. Squeeze as hard as you can, and then you relax it for the next 30 seconds. You do that 3 times, then you move to your calf, then you move to your thigh, then you move to your abdomen. That way you progress, you reach your face and then relax. Why is this important? Again, the importance is the mind-body connection. When we are stressed, when we are angry, our brain will send signals to your body and your muscles tighten up, don't they? When we teach them to relax, the brain learns that tightening ke baad relaxation karna chahiye. So in a situation later on, when your body tightens up, the brain will automatically remember to relax. So it's a very, very important skill that you can practice on a daily basis. So it's very important to understand our mind-body connection. We have to understand that our mind is the same thing as our brain. And like you take part of each and every part of your body, focusing on your brain and its health is very, very important. Your emotions, attitudes, and thoughts are important. Let us learn to normalize our emotions. Let's work on managing our anger, our stress better, both short term as well as long term. Let some of us use the tip scale. Let's learn to accept the situation, respond and not react in a situation. Let's have a solution-based approach. Can we change our attitude towards situations to be more optimistic? A very, very good exercise to take charge of the thoughts is practicing mindfulness. Savoring an attitude of gratitude should be part of our lives. Digital detox is very, very important. Let's turn our negative emotions and thoughts to positive ones, focusing on exercise and good sleep hygiene. Progressive muscle relaxation is an important exercise that each one of us can practice. Because I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become. So thank you very much. And now we can take the question and answers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a insightful session with some beautiful takeaway messages. So, ma'am, we have a couple of questions from our viewers. So the first one is, how can we cultivate positive attitude about our body?
I think it's a very, very important question, especially at these times when each one of us struggles to accept how I look. I would always feel, I wish I was, when I was younger, I wished I was 5 kilos heavier. And now when I'm older, I wish I was 15 kilos lighter, So this struggle with our body constantly happens. How do I change? So like I said, let's reframe that situation. Let's stop looking at it from a weight point of view. So I'm not going to focus on the outcome, which is weight, but I'm going to change and reframe that situation to focus on a fitter me. So if I'm able to, let's say, walk 5,000 steps today, aram se, I'm going to focus on, can I make it 7,000 steps in the next 1 month? Can I stop comparing my journey to another person's journey? And it's very, very easy for me to say, very difficult for us to follow, because we're constantly bombarded with perfect images and perfect body in social media. That's where the digital detox happens. Even if you keep your phone away for some time, your brain is able to reorganize itself and look at it more positively. So one is fixing your goals to be more realistic, focusing on a more fitter body than a thinner or a heavier body. That will help us to approach your body in a more positive way.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Another question that we have is how can we build the mind-body synchrony?
So I think we spoke a lot about building the mind-body synchrony throughout the talk, and I'm sure that you must have got some tips about it. But another thing that you can understand is the first thing is an awareness. So now this talk probably has evoked an awareness that there is a connection between your brain and your mind and your body. And the first, once you're aware, then you focus on which thought of mine is causing what kind of change in my body physiologically. You know, the same thing as kuch kuch hota hai, when you see somebody that you love, you know, that feeling that you get, the rush that you get in your body, the same thing happens kuch kuch hota hai when somebody you hate. So you focus on what is it, where is that kuch kuch hota hai, right? And then learn to calm it down.
Absolutely, ma'am. That's such a beautiful example to focus on kya hota hai in our body. So the next question, ma'am, is what can be done to develop self-compassion?
Very, very important. And that is something I think each one of us will have to learn, because it's not something which is taught to us from the time that we are children. As a culture, we're always taught to take care of others, rightfully so. We must take care of others. You know, I always like to quote a biblical saying in the Bible. I don't know if anybody knows about it. A very, very important commandment given is love your neighbor as you love yourself. And everybody just focuses on loving your neighbor. But this thing is, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if you're not able to love yourself for who you are, you cannot love another person. In the same way that you cannot, you know, I cannot give Neha a glass of water if my jug is empty. So how do I change that focus? Is first change the narrative that others before self. It's not being selfish. It's about self-care. And first thing is, can I focus on what are my needs? Can I focus on what is it that makes me happy as a person? That means I also focus on what is wrong in my life and what is good. So I appreciate the positives that I have, and I work on my negative traits. Am I somebody who gets angry very easily? Am I somebody who gets irritable very easily? But I'm also somebody who's very kind to my friends. I will go an extra mile to help my friends. So that's a good thing. Can I learn to manage this better? Some ways that you can manage self-compassion is learning the art of being assertive. Because many a times we kind of go all out in helping others without laying those boundaries. So being assertive will teach you how to say no to somebody and will learn to value you more than somebody else. So practice assertiveness. Have positive affirmations. Look up in the mirror every day morning and say, "Main khud ki favorite hu." You know, these kind of things will really resonate and revise in your head again and again. Ki, yes, I am the best. If I was giving you the example earlier of the tables. If I have learned the 2 3s are 5, और मैंने वही चीज बार बार रटा मारा है, then Neha will tell me, no, you don't know your tables. 2 3s are 6. I say, oh, correct, 2 3s are 6. But because I have learned 2 3s are 5 so many times, when somebody will ask me suddenly, I will say 2 3s are 5. Because it has got so embedded in my head. In the same way, this negative talk that we give to ourselves gets embedded. We replace it with positive thoughts. We wake up in the morning, look at the mirror and say, I am the best. I love myself. Sometimes it will seem a little silly. Everybody around you will laugh. In the hostel, you get up, you open the mirror and say, I'm the best. But when you keep on doing it again and again, that self-love and self-compassion will be a practice.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think those were all the questions. So thank you, ma'am, for taking the time from your very busy schedule to be the guest speaker for today's webinar. And I'm sure that our students and faculty members would be a little more mindful of how their bodies react when they're feeling emotions, and also use these techniques that you've mentioned to regulate their emotions in a better way. So it was really insightful. And I'd also like to express my sincere gratitude to our viewers today for being a part of this event. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Symbiosis, for having me. And I hope that each one of us gets onto the journey of establishing our mind-body connect in a more holistic way. It's a journey, it's not a destination. So let's not kind of take another added on stressor on our heads. Let's work towards making things better for us. So thank you and God bless everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.